Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Angela Brenn and today I'm bringing you Spellbinders Stitching Die of the Month from March 2025 called Diamond Knit. Stitching dies are one of my favorite dies in the Spellbinders Clubkits. So today I'm going to show you quite a few ways that I use it. Now there are different ways that you can use it and you can add the other Spellbinders Clubkits as part of the assembly of these cards. And I'll probably do that when I showcase the small die and the large die of the month later on. But what I do is I do use a lot of the Better Press of the month as well as the Glimmer of the month, that I use them for the mainly sentiments, because this month there's quite a lot of sentiments. And I love the way I've done the stitching here, and I've got a little bit creative by using different colored threads, different colored cards, and I'm also starting by putting these two together. So these are both A2 size cards, but I'm gluing them together so I can create quite a large card. I end up with a card that is 5.5 inches by just almost 8.5 inches, and I also have to make a custom envelope for it, a custom sized envelope. So don't worry about making different size cards, just go ahead and make a card and then you can figure out how to make an envelope for it. I start off by using cotton thread, and I'm only using 3 strands, and I attach the thread behind the die cut with a sellotape and I just start stitching. Because this thread is all the same color, I'm just going with all the stitches in the same direction first, and then I'll weave the thread through the other direction. I just don't stitch it straight on, I weave it. So it looks prettier, firstly. Secondly, it also means it doesn't snag and pull the whole thread out easily. You'll see what I mean. So if you just put the thread through all the die cut stitch holes and you just weave the needle through each of it so it looks like a nice weave of a square. Very easy to do once you get the hang of it. So I would suggest, if you're a beginner, use cotton thread, and if you're a little bit more advanced you can use metallic thread. I do use metallic thread in some of my examples, but I don't show it, but it's the same principle. It's just that you need to hold it, the thread taut, and every stitch you do, because it'll just slip if not. Whereas a cotton thread, it's easier for you to do the stitching as well as the weaving. So you can see how the weave looks here. These cotton threads, you can either use DMC 6-strand thread or Luca S thread. I'll put a link to both the threads in the description below for your ease of reference. Both of them, nice sheen you get with it. And remember, when you remove the strands one by one so you don't knot the thread. And I'm only using 3 strands here with a size 24 tapestry needle. So as you can see, it's pretty quickly that you can do one square, but it takes a little while to do all the squares. All you need is put the telly on or listen to audiobook and get on with the stitching. I find it very therapeutic. At the end of it, I just put it to the back and secure the thread with some sellotape and you're done. That's one square done. It does take a little while to do, so once I finish all the squares, the one in the middle where I do the connection, the square is slightly smaller. So it's the same principle. So I'm just showing you what I'm doing here. Secure the thread with sellotape behind the die cut, and then you continue stitching as is. So you do the weaves and everything. You can't really see the slightly smaller square unless you're aware. Obviously when you're stitching you can see, but I just go with it and continue with the stitching. This stitching die of the month comes with 2 sentiments. It says cheers to you and you inspire me, and I do use that as well, but quite a few of the sentiments that I use in the 14 cards I made. Yes, 14 cards for the stitching die of the month, and you'll see all of them towards the end of the video. I use the ones from the Glimmer of the month as well as the Better Press of the month. There are more sentiments with the clear stamp of the month. I did not use them here, but I'll use them in future videos. So my next video will be on the Glimmer of the month and Better Press of the month, and you will see me use those sentiments, and I probably will be using it in conjunction with the stencil of the month, which allows me to color the Better Press of the month image, but you'll see the details in my next video. So once I finish stitching, I will secure it at the back, and then I'm pretty much done. I'll show you the finished card later on. Now moving on to my next stitching, I'm using variegated thread here. So variegated thread, I want to see the color come through. So I'm stitching it slightly differently. So I do both directions at the same time so the color will flow through better in my opinion. So all I need to do is do the weaving as I'm stitching in both directions. So I'm slowing it down here so you can have a look at it. So you can see the thread. I'm putting it under and over and putting it to the other side, and then I'm going the other direction and doing the same thing. What I think when you do it this way is you get a better distribution of the color of the variegated thread. Variegated thread is the same thing. It comes in 6 strands, and I'm also using only 3 strands here, and it's got various colors within one strand. So it's a DMC thread that I'm using here, and I do like using variegated thread in most of my stitching dies because it does give you quite a different look. I'm using it in the background of a dark blue card here, but just imagine if you get a colorful thread and use it in the background of a white card. How pretty will that look? So I've used quite a few different variegated threads in the samples that I've done here, and you can have a look at the end of the video. But I've also used different colored threads as you saw earlier. And you can really go to town and create different colored threads and different colored squares that you will fill in those die cut squares in the diamond knit pattern of the stitching die of the month, which is why I end up making so many cards, because I do get carried away with the color combinations and the assembly of the cards. So if you're new to stitching dies, try with cotton thread and give it a go. You could also die cut the stitching die of the month as a background and not do any stitching. Totally up to you. You can just do some ink blending. In fact, I'll show you how I do some ink blending and some stitching next up after this. So it is easy enough to put this together once you get the hang of it. Honestly, the first one you figure it out, and then before you know it, you're stitching like a pro. Just like any card, any product, the first couple of times you're just learning of the product, and once you're used to it, you can get really creative. And here are all the various cards I've done. The black background here, I've done colors, different thread colors, and try to do a bit of a gradation of colors. And I've got some dark backgrounds and some light backgrounds, and just gone to town with it. And by the time I finished stitching all of this, I got so used to it. Here I've done die cutting of the stitching die of the month, a light blue card, and I'm doing some ink blending with 3 distress ink colors. Just a little bit of a gradation, very light application of it, just to have a little bit of a hue from a dark teal to a lighter teal that blends with that light teal card that I've die cut the stitching die of the month with. And then I'll leave the ink to dry and do stitching per usual. Easy enough to do. Or you could just do this ink blending and use it as a background without any stitching. But you know me, I love stitching. So I end up doing these 2 cards, and the one on the right is rainbow colors, and I stitch one with black thread and one with white thread. The next card, I'm going to do a bit of a layering. So I've got 4 cards here that I've die cut with the stitching die of the month, and only the top layer I've done some stitching with a darker thread. So it's just a darker tone of thread from that card, and I'm just going to attach them all 4 together before I put it onto a card front. Just a different way to use it. I just liked the idea of it. I'm not sure why I chose quite strong colors, but I just went with it. These are the 4 cards that I die cut first, and I thought, oh, they do go together. So I decided to give it a go. You could even not do any stitching because you do layering, and you could even layer it until you close that little diamond hole die cut. It's up to you, so you can put many layers until that hole is closed. So you could go to town with the various ways you can stretch this out. So once I attach them all together, I just use slightly different colors. I think I end up using the teals and the purples as the little diamond holes that can be seen through at once you put all the cards together. So they're slightly smaller diamonds, and you can either attach it onto an A7 card or an A6 card and just cut all that excess, and I choose the latter. And I'm just using my guillotine to cut off the excess so it can fit onto the front of an A2 card, not an A6 card, because the size of the stitching die of the month is an A2 size, which measures 4¼ inches by 5½ inches. Here I'm using a pencil to mark where all those square diamonds will be placed, and I end up using the teal as well as the purple. I put some reds initially, but I didn't like how it looked because I think it clashed with the front of the red, and I'm just going to see what colors work. This is what I'm doing here by just marking so I know exactly where to place those little diamonds before I attach it with adhesive. So I used double-sided adhesive here because I don't like using liquid glue on the front of a card because it can warp the card. So just double-sided adhesive, placing it exactly where those holes will go. So when I attach that layered, 4-layered card, it will see through and look gorgeous. So here is all the bits of the squares that will be the result when you die cut with the stitching die of the month. So I keep them all until I finish all the assembly so I know if I want to use them. And there you go. All I need to do is cut off the excess bit of the triangles that stick at the edge of the A2 card before I attach that layered background of the stitching die onto the card front. And I use double-sided tape for it as well. As I mentioned, I don't like using liquid glue when I'm going to attach it to a card front. So just place it, align it, and then you go. There you go. All that teal and purple see-through. I like the way it turned out. And I'm just going to place You're My Hero, Dad. These are the sentiments which I hot foiled with the Glimmer of the month and also layered it because they all come with coordinating dies, which is really, really nice. You can do some layering and get your sentiment to be nice and thick like chipboards. And there you go. I think it's a pretty simple card and I like the way it turned out. Let me know what you think about this layering technique. There are many different ways that I use to fill the little square diamonds in the background. Here I've got some white cards here and I'm just going to do a little bit of color. So I'm using a little bit of yellow and blue distress inks to match that variegated thread that I stitched earlier on, hoping it will kind of go. I just wanted to try something different. So here the squares that will fill in between that stitched diamond knit, it's going to be this combination of blue and yellow. In fact, I wanted to go blue and yellow and try and get a bit of green in the middle, but I decided not to overdo it because I didn't want it to overpower the stitched background. So very lightly, I'm just going more strongly with the yellow and very lightly putting the blue there, and I'm going to assemble this card later on. And you can let me know what you think as well. There are so many ways you can do it. In fact, you can even just do the ink blending in the background and then attach this. You can do that as well. I just want to try something different. It takes a little bit more effort, but I think it's quite pretty when you put it all together. And I'm using my stamp wheel there, which has got a sticky mat to keep that little tiny die cuts in place while I do some ink blending. And this is how it will look. And I'll show you how I'll put the card together later on. There you go. I think it looks kind of pretty. All I need to do is add a sentiment and I'm pretty much done. I would love to hear your comments on all the cards I've created here, so do let me know what you think in the comments below. Here's a different way that I'm adding some color in the background. I've marked all the little diamond holes with a pencil and I'm just erasing it so it's really light, and I'm using my small blending brush from Altenew to just apply some color here. Again, I'm trying to mimic the colors of that variegated thread that I used in that purple background. So I'm putting mostly the yellow, but I put slightly a little bit of a light lilac, but it's not very visible at the end of the day because these inks, you must remember, they do dry lighter. So at the end when it's all dried, I don't really see much of that lilac. I just see more of that yellow. And I do like that little diamond die cuts there. They don't color it fully, so it's just got a hint of a yellow and it just kind of gradually moves off. It looks kind of pretty when you put it together. And these are the two sentiments that comes with the stitching die of the month. You've got cheers to you as well as you inspire me, and you can die cut it together with that rectangle die cut and then die cut a rectangle separately so you can have that background come through. Now the cheers to you and inspire me, if you die cut it with a thick card, you don't see the card go through, you don't see that cheers, you don't see that color come through in the background. But if you use a slightly thinner card as I've done here, you can see that background of the white and black come through. Here is the larger card that I made. So the card measures almost 8.5 by 5.5 inches, and I've used my envelope punch board to create a custom size envelope for it. I've got a separate video that I show you how I use the envelope punch board, and I'll put it in the link below so it's easy for you to check it out. But don't feel afraid to use to make different size cards, because you can always make a custom envelope. And here are all the 14 cards that I created with the stitching die of the month. I did get carried away. This card here I used metallic thread and the sentiment from the Better Press of the month, which I hot foiled. And here I'm used the small die of the month And I did not put much additional die cut, so I might add on to it when I use my other Spellbinders club kits, maybe add some flowers and foliage. So I might come back to them and show you to them in my later videos. But whatever it is, I will put the links to all the Spellbinders club kits of March 2025 as I release the videos in the description below, so you can have it all there to check it out if you want to. I liked the way how all these cards turned out. I liked experimenting with different threads, different colored backgrounds, different color combinations, and that's to me the thrill of putting these cards together. And sometimes it takes me ages to figure out which colors to go together. And some of these sentiments, you won't see them. They're from old Spellbinders club kits, because when I do sentiments, I do end up doing lots of them, and I have them available in my craft space, and I use the sentiments from previous club kits. As such, this one, you've got that birthday glow, shimmer on my friend. I like using the sentiments that are available. So a lot of them, I do a lot of hot foiling and die cutting and have them available to attach to completed cards. And I do like how the graduation of these teal color here and a simple sentiment from that I've hot foiled with the better press of the month. I've included as many of the products as I can in the description below, like this old Glimmer of the Plate sentiment. I still have loads of sentiments that I've hot foiled, and I'll put that in the link below, and I've used that in these two cards. I do like the sentiments here because I'm running short of birthday cards, and I do love sending out stitch cards because many of my friends and family like getting stitched cards from me, and I do want to make sure that they get birthday cards that I've stitched. So here are all the close-up of the cards that I've created. Do let me know what you think. All of the Spellbinders club kits available between the 6th and 27th of every month, so get your club kits ordered, and I've got all the links below in the description. Do let me know, leave me a comment, and I will be posting more Spellbinders club kits in my YouTube channel, Angela Brennan Creations, as soon as I get them put together. Thank you so much for stopping by. Happy crafting, and I'll catch you at my next video. Do take care.